Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Stewart. I am a licensed practicing attorney, and I wanted to come on here and just start a series around answering questions about law school. I get a lot of questions from friends, some of my past students, other colleagues, and just random people about the law school process, actually going to law school, the bar, all of that good stuff. So I figured I would start doing videos around those questions. So this is the first video, and this video is going to talk about applying to law school or preparing to apply to law school. So the first thing I want to say is that preparing to apply to law school is a process that is strategic and it's in itself. And so the first thing you want to do is make sure you have definitely done the research on the law schools that you are interested in applying to. You shouldn't be applying to any and every law school, just throwing the spaghetti at the refrigerator, hoping that it sticks. You should have some reason or intention for why you want to go to that law school. So, for example, there are some law schools that are more specific to big law. So they prepare you for working in the corporate sector, becoming associates and partners at law firms. They prepare you for that. There's other law schools that prepare you for social justice work, where you are more so in the field, where you are primarily focus more so on the indigent populations and helping those that are directly related to the environment or the communities that you are interested in. And then there are law schools that prepare you for, better prepare you for private practice, tax law, any of those type of things. So you want to first make sure that you're researching the law schools that you're interested in going to. In that process of researching the law schools, you also want to pay attention to what their tuition is. Law school can be very expensive. And this is a very important conversation now in this current climate where a lot of times your financial aid is going to be limited based on how much financial aid you've had in undergrad. If you already have other graduate degrees, the amount of money that you may be able to get now to go to law school is going to be impacted by that. So you want to make sure that it is a place that either you're going to get a scholarship, or you're likely to get a scholarship, or that you can afford to go to even if you don't get financial aid. And so you want to make sure that you do those things and look at the tuition. The second thing that you want to make sure that you do is to look at the scholarship opportunities and even email them. Most of the law schools have what is known as merit scholarships. And so in those merit scholarships, what ends up happening is they give those scholarships to individuals whose applications present with great GPAs. They have great field work experience. They have great potential to likely be great individuals when they get out into the field. Give me 1 second. Okay, and so in addition to the merit scholarships, they have other type of scholarships. Some people may have social justice scholarships. They may have fellowship related scholarships. A faculty member may have research that you may be able to get on. So you want to also reach out to the law schools or attend their open houses so you learn about the scholarships. Scholarships vary, and it's very different from undergrad. So for example, I went to law school after already having a master's, a bachelor's, and a PhD. And so, my experience, my ability to be a student has already been proven because I have multiple degrees and I have a PhD, which is the highest degree that you can earn. So it shows that I have the study skills, the academic skills, all of those type of things. So I received scholarships from all of the universities that I applied, the law schools that I applied to. The difference is that based on the tuition of each of those law schools, for example, one of the law schools' tuition was very high. And so even though they gave me a $30,000 scholarship, that only covered half of the year. I still would have needed to come up with the rest of the money. The other law school that I really wanted to go to, which is the one I ended up going to, gave me a full scholarship, which covered my full tuition. Now, when I got that scholarship letter, it says that the requirement is you have to maintain a 2.7 GPA. That tells you right there how difficult law school is to master, how difficult it is to go through law school. I went in with a 3.9 GPA from my PhD, and all I had to maintain was a 2.7. That was my mindset. Oh, a 2.7? I could do that with my eyes closed. Realizing how tough it was to make sure that I had a 2.7 or higher GPA to get through law school. was mind-blowing to me. So be mindful and aware of the different type of scholarships that there are and how that money may fall out when you're looking at the actual tuition. Now, let's talk about preparing to take the LSAT for law school. Once you know what law schools you are interested in, the second most important thing you must do after researching the tuition and if they have what you're interested in practicing or focusing in is to look at their median LSAT score from the year prior. So every law school will post their median LSAT score from the year prior. Your goal or your target is that your LSAT needs to be at that median score or higher for most law schools to even consider you in their next class, because they're not looking to go below what their median score was for the year prior. That median LSAT score is telling you this is the LSAT score of the median students we've taken that we accepted into this program. And so the likelihood of them going below that median score is very low. So your goal when you're studying for the LSAT and preparing to take the LSAT and your LSAT practice test is to have the median LSAT score from the law schools you're interested in for the year prior. That median is the lowest your LSAT score should be, or higher. You should always go higher. And so that is very important. Things that are not as important for law school applications and law school decisions that I think, especially when you're coming straight out of undergrad, a lot of undergrad students focus on very heavy or harp on very heavy is going or majoring in what they think is a degree that's going to put them on track for law school. There is no program in undergrad that will prepare you for law school. Now, undergrad as a whole can prepare you for law school because it prepares you to be a student. It kind of prepares you to study, but not really, because there's a different science to studying and preparing and taking notes in law school. And so technically, unless it's like a pre-law program that is catered to funneling you into a law school program, there is no undergrad program that's going to prepare you for that. So taking a criminal justice major doesn't give you a better leg up than somebody who has a degree in computer science. So for example, again, my bachelor's is computer science, my master's is speech language pathology, my PhD is communication sciences and disorders. None of my degrees had anything to do with law school, and none of it needed to have anything to do with law school. None of it could prepare me for law school, and there was no, for the kids that were in my cohort that did poli-sci and did criminal justice and did all of those legal track majors, they said it didn't prepare them for law school either, because law school is a different animal. So don't stress yourself about trying to major in an area that you think is going to get you better options for acceptance, or that's going to get you through law school easier, because it's not possible. What I can say is that you might want to think about majors that round out your interest area or your area of focus. So for example, my interest areas, or the areas where I practice, is special education law, juvenile justice law, child abuse and neglect law. And so that directly aligns with my other degrees in communication sciences and disorders and speech and language pathology, because I am well trained, certified, and an expert in the area of child language disorders and child language development and child development. I know a lot about that process. I have practiced for 17 years in the area of working with children from birth to 23, and from adults from 21 to geriatric up. So this kind of rounded out my specialty area. So what you can do is focus on majors that may round out your area. For example, if you're interested in biz law, you might want to focus on getting a degree in business management or accounting or any of those type of things. If you're interested in sports contracts and sports agency law, you might want to focus on doing, something in that area of sports management or physiotherapy or even business law, again, because it's going to round you out in a sense of making you a better expert in that field when you start to practice. And so what's the last thing I wanted to mention about that? Oh, you also want to make sure that when you are choosing the law school, that you're looking at what electives and clinical experiences they offer. Two different things. So your electives are very important because even though they don't tell you this, and even though it is not mandatory, half of your bar are questions that comes from elective courses. So even though, for instance, your core courses that every law school per ABA has to give you is crim law, constitutional law, contracts law, civil procedure, torts, criminal procedure, they have to give you those core courses. There's a few others I didn't name, but those are the core courses that every law school has to give you. And then in addition to that, you have to round out those core courses with elective courses. Now, those courses come in two. So you don't take it one time and then you're done. So you take crim law 1 and 2. You take torts 1 and 2. You take contracts 1 and 2. You take civ procedure 1 and 2. Because it's so vast. It's so much that it has to be separated into 2 different courses, 2 different semesters. So you fill in about your second year, you have space to start taking electives or doing an externship. Those electives are important, and you should be strategic about those electives because those electives have a likelihood of showing up on the bar. And so I know that there's getting ready to be a new bar, the Gen Z or something like that bar, which some states have adopted, most states have not. And so expecting your state to have that new bar is not likely in the next couple of years or when you are getting ready to graduate if you're watching this in 2026. So you want to make sure that you are going to schools that have certain electives. For example, the bar most often has a business law question on it, but business law is not a mandatory class. Very rare that I've seen a special education question on the bar, but I have seen a family law question on the bar. Family law is not a mandatory class, it's an elective class. So you want to make sure that you're looking for. I have seen a probate question on the bar, even though probates and wills and estates is not a mandatory course. It is a course that you likely will have to take in the electives. Don't avoid those courses, and you want to make sure you're researching the law school to make sure that the law school offers these electives, because every law school does not necessarily have to offer it or offer it. They need somebody from that area that can teach that class effectively. And so the other thing that you need to do is make sure that they have those electives. In the other area, when we're talking about clinical sites and clinical experiences, there's variation in law schools. The law school I went to, clinical experiences or clinical externships plus on-site clinical experiences was mandatory. It was not an option. You had to do them. And they started in, I want to say, our second semester of the first year. But some law schools don't require that you take them. It is up to you if you want to elect to take an externship or a clinical site experience while you're in law school. In my personal opinion, it is very important and it is beneficial for you to do clinical externships and on-site externships, clinical sites, while you are in law school, because it gives you practice and experience with the profession before you graduate. Because it is not like medicine or my field where when you graduate you still have to do 1 year of residency under a licensed professional. Law school is not like that. I know one of my colleagues that graduated out of my cohort, she passed the bar while we was still in school, and she started her private practice while we were still in school. In my mind, I'm like, you don't know anything about law, so how is this getting ready to work? But you have the right to do that. Once you have passed the bar and you have your bar license, you can go straight out and practice. But the catch is, do you know what you're doing? And so those clinical experiences give you the option to dibble and dabble and experience different areas and see what you like and what you don't like. Get skills and knowledge in areas that you know you want to specialize in or be an professional focus in. So, for example, one of my on-site clinical experiences was intimate partner violence clinic. And in the moment, I disliked that clinic. I did not want that clinic. It was not the reason. The whole reason I came to that law school was because I was focused on juvenile justice, and they had a juvenile justice clinic at the time. By the time I was enrolled and classes started, This was during the pandemic, in the height of the pandemic. So I started law school online. The juvenile justice clinic did not exist. So unfortunately, I didn't get that experience that I specifically was coming for. But when I started the IPV clinic, best experience I ever had. And now I have that skill in my bag that I know how to do IPV representation and IPV practice with my eyes closed. And I've even actually had to utilize it in a child abuse and neglect case where a portion of it I needed to do some pieces that surrounded around IPV, and I was able to do that smoothly and get that individual what they needed without any assistance or redirection or having to do extra work. And so those externships are going to be important for that process. So you want to make sure, one, you see what externships they have. And then two, do they allow you to do externships? When do they allow you to do externships? All of those type of things. Another thing to keep in mind when you are applying to law schools is you want to look to see, do they have any bar prep programs? Again, my program started us with bar prep very early. Bar prep programs don't necessarily have to say bar prep. They can say things like legal writing. You want to know how to legally write. You want to know how to negotiate. So I took a negotiation elective one year. Legal writing 1 and 2 was a mandatory for us. We were drilled around how to utilize the Kelley Blue Book, how to properly cite, how to properly write arguments, how to properly write motions, how to properly write memos in office. We knew how to do it. And so I can write, even though I was a great writer. I did a dissertation and a PhD. I had to learn a whole different science of writing because law school writing is very different from scientific writing. But I can do it, and I can do it with ease. And I am comfortable in charging what I charge for my representation and my practice, because I know that the writing, the motions and the arguments and the facts and the research that I do is top notch because my law school prepared me for that. So you want to make sure that your law school also does those things. The last thing I'm going to say is that if you are non-traditional like me, or if you are a student that has other responsibilities and you're questioning whether you want to go part-time or full-time, please make sure you check that law school's rules. A lot of law schools don't let you switch over from part-time if you started part-time. Some of them have the rule that if you start part-time, which is a 4-year process, you stay part-time the entire time. You can take some classes during the day, but you're not able to change or accelerate your track when you change your mind and say, now I want to go full-time. And so you want to definitely check on that. Me personally, I went through law school full-time. I'm not recommending anybody do that because I went to law school full-time and I still practice full-time as a speech and language pathologist and worked full-time as a salaried professor teaching classes. And so was not the best idea. 10 out of 10 do not recommend, but I knew what I needed to do as far as financial purposes because I was paying out of pocket for maintaining my lifestyle. I'm a grown adult with a mortgage and bills and all of that. So even though they was giving me a scholarship to go to school, and I'm grateful for all of the scholarships that my university, my law school gave me, because I wouldn't be here without it, attorney wise, I still had bills and responsibilities outside of that. So I had to keep, that going and that up. And I wasn't about to quit my full-time professor salary job for that purpose. So I thugged it out. But you want to make sure that you understand what their rules and requirements are if you do decide to go part-time. So this is my first video. I hope it is helpful. Feel free to drop me any questions at any time. I'll also try to add my email address and my Instagram so you can reach out to me directly, and also share any other things that you want me to talk about or discuss. My next video, I don't know what it will be about, but it will be about law school. We'll dig more deeper into these conversations and topics that I've addressed, and I will see you on the back end.